Oh boy, if you saw the title, then you bet you're in for a video full of me screaming about one thing and one thing only. And just a heads up, guys, I'm about to scream, aliens, baby, let's go! Woo! I'm home alone, so I can yell as loud as I want. No one else is here working. Let's go, aliens! Now, initially, the idea of aliens invading Earth tomorrow seems like it'd be bad news all around, but that's just rude. Why do we just think it's bad? Are you guys really stereotyping aliens right now? Just assuming they're how Hollywood and the media always depicts them? What if they're sweethearts? I mean, we can't forget, guys, we're talking about aliens, not humans. It's important to remember, not everyone is as bad as we are. All jokes aside, the idea of aliens actually coming to Earth is both incredibly exciting and frightening. And that's exactly what we're covering today in LBQ as we ask, what if aliens invaded Earth tomorrow? If you like aliens as much as I do, smash that like button and let's get to exploring aliens! Now, over the years, there have been plenty of films, comics, video games, TV shows, and even songs that have depicted aliens in a negative light. Alien, War of the Worlds, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Men in Black, Star Trek, the Halo games, Mass Effect, I mean the list goes on and on. However, those are your typical slimy, harmful aliens, I guess we'll say. Technically, some superheroes are also considered alien, for example, Superman. Of course, we could also look at the friendly bicycle riding, sort of, I was like in the basket more so, but it's fine. Alien featured in Steven Spielberg's classic, E.T. Definitely not comparable to the likes of the aliens from the movie with the same name. So as you can see, there are plenty of different types of aliens out there, and to assume that if they came to Earth tomorrow, we'd be doomed, isn't necessarily the case. With that being said, given that the title does say invade, well, odds are they wouldn't come in peace. At least not at first. The second anything would try to invade our planet, I think it's safe to say we'd be up in arms. No pun intended there. America, baby! The greatest country in the world! Now, we could go down the obvious route here where these aliens invade Earth, use technologies that we didn't even imagine were possible, and they simply destroy everyone and everything. But that's not fun. I mean, we're gonna do it anyways, but I won't enjoy it. If you've seen movies involving aliens, such as War of the Worlds or even the movie Alien, then you know that sometimes these things are pretty much impossible to stop. They have the flying saucers, the laser guns, the armored skin, or whatever other alien attributes they've been seen with in the various movies I mentioned before. At the end of the day, if we were invaded by a species of aliens that were more advanced than us in numerous ways, odds are we really wouldn't be able to put up much of a fighting chance. And given that they would be invading Earth, we'd also need to keep in mind that any damage done during this invasion, or war, if that's even what it would be, would ultimately end up affecting us even more, as we potentially destroy cities, maybe even countries, as we try to fend off the alien invasion. All in all, it'd be a pretty bad time. It's not like we'd be able to just shoot nukes up into the sky to scare these things off, because again, we'd have to deal with the aftermath of all of that. Not to say that we wouldn't stand a fighting chance, but I mean, in this case, odds are slim to none. However, that's just one angle we could take. Maybe aliens invade Earth and aren't necessarily coming to destroy things. We know NASA is currently exploring Mars, and technically speaking, when we started putting our technology on the planet, well, I guess we were invading it, right? It's not like we were welcomed with open arms. We kind of just said, yeah, let's go check it out. So who's to say that the aliens don't do the same with Earth? Maybe they travel through galaxies or solar systems, exploring each planet for whatever it is they're looking for. Intelligent life, maybe? Natural resources? Who knows? Who knows what the purpose could be? But it doesn't necessarily mean they'd be aggressive and would destroy everything just because they can. Of course, this can lead to a few other potential outcomes. For starters, let's go with the angle that they do truly come in peace, and rather than try to take over, they're genuinely just curious beings. Much like us, they found a planet which was foreign to them and wanted to see what was going on there. So let's say a handful of them came to Earth, started exploring, and then a human saw them, freaked out, posted it on social media, obviously, and everyone started to question whether it was real or not. At some point, we'd obviously try to track these things down and maybe capture them. Whether that means it's local law enforcement or the military, depending on where exactly they would be discovered, could potentially lead to how things play out from here. In some parts of the world, there's the shoot first, ask questions later mentality. Well, in other parts, well, it's the opposite. Which means there is a possibility we stumble upon the aliens and try to talk with them. Understand them, either through verbal communication or maybe even body language. For all we know, these things could have technologies that understand all forms of language and translate them so we could actually communicate with each other. I mean, really the possibilities for their technologies are endless. We don't truly know what aliens are actually capable of, so there really is no right or wrong here, as crazy as it all may seem. That being said, again, if the aliens stumble upon an area where the mentality is kill or be killed, well, that could also be an issue. Let's say we try shooting the aliens with guns. It may hurt them, or it may not. And it may lead to them retaliating and attacking us, or again, it may not. Now, I'm going to say if, for example, 3 alien spacecrafts landed and 6 aliens started to walk around, people would freak out. And if someone were to start shooting at them, odds are the aliens would just eliminate the threat, or in this case, the person attempting to attack them. This could lead to a bad first impression, where the aliens then decide to completely take over and either enslave the human race or just destroy everything, assuming we are of no use to them. Or maybe they would just leave us alone, because again, if the Earth and humans are of no use, why would they waste their time and technology, resources, destroying things when they can continue on their journey doing whatever it is they're doing in the first place? Now, regardless if they come in peace or not, there are a handful of other factors that would simply change life as we know it. For the sake of this example, let's say even one alien comes, lands on Earth, and then just leaves. Doesn't destroy things, maybe interacts with a few humans and we have video evidence of it, and then poof, the thing just disappears. Well, aside from the extreme panic and fear that would likely ensue, we'd have confirmation that aliens do exist. So that song by Blink-182, Aliens Exist, it would probably be like our theme song from this point on, you know what I mean? Like the national anthem for the world. I like Blink-182. And naturally, I feel a lot more funding would go into space exploration, as we likely want to find out more about our alien visitor. This would change the course of the future, as we probably wouldn't be as focused on other pressing issues, for example climate change. Yet still, it seems even if the aliens did come in peace, they'd still be coming from an unknown area. Whether it be another universe or planet, it doesn't really matter, they'd be foreign to Earth. And that means it's also quite possible they would bring foreign bacteria to Earth, which could contaminate things. You get what I'm saying? Disease. The aliens, regardless of their reason for coming, could bring diseases to Earth, and this is just yet another thing that we'd have to deal with. As you can see, the idea of an alien invasion is actually incredibly complex. A lot of these films make it appear as if it goes one of two ways. They come and attack, we fight back and either win or lose. Or they come in peace and we coexist. But as I mentioned before, regardless of their reason for coming, it's possible they bring diseases with them. We'd spend a lot of money trying to further explore what happened, and if there are other aliens out there in the universe. Unfortunately, if they did come with the intentions of trying to take over or being the aggressor, I really don't see us putting up much of a fighting chance under the assumption they are capable of using technologies and weapons we couldn't even think of in our wildest dreams. On the flip side, however, if they did come just to discover, and of course, best case scenario, we would learn to coexist, then who knows how much faster the human race would be able to advance in more ways than one. Maybe the aliens would take some of us to their planet or planets to explore different ways of living. We can help each other with technologies and even space travel, assuming they know things that we don't, and vice versa. It may seem a little far-fetched, but I mean, we're talking about an alien invasion here, guys. You can't tell me what's right or wrong here. There's no fact checking, there's no, it is what it is. Wildest imagination here, guys. And you could be right too, saying I'm an idiot. We really don't know. That's why this video is so fun. The last thing I will say to wrap all of this up is the potential of us starting a new species or race altogether. All I'm gonna say is people are sick, man, and you bet there would be at least one or two people, probably men, who would be attracted to their alien counterparts. Who's to say an alien and human don't, do the deed, have a spicy time if you get what I'm saying, and then create an alien-human hybrid which would inevitably start an entire new category of aliens and humans. I'm not sure if they'd be their own species, given that it would depend if it'd even be possible for a human and alien to have an offspring, but again, we don't know anything about aliens, so this hypothetical could go either way. Maybe that'd be a good movie premise. Aliens come to invade Earth, a human and an alien do it, have a child, and the two sides need to coexist simply for the sake of the human-alien baby. It'd be a little silly, but nowadays it seems Hollywood will greenlight anything. All in all, an alien invasion doesn't always mean bad things. Although it seems regardless of the reasoning for coming to Earth, some things such as potential new diseases, as well as proof in general that aliens exist, would be inevitable, it doesn't necessarily mean the world and human race would come to an end. And if I have to be the one who fathers this human-alien baby thing, child I guess I'll call it, I mean, I'll do it. Aliens, baby! I'm excited. I'm not attracted to aliens, but I really don't know what an alien looks like, so maybe I am attracted to them. I don't know. Like, there's some that I've seen, like, in Guardians of the Galaxy? What's her name? Solanda or something? No, that's not her name. Zoe. Her first name's Zoe. Regardless, good-looking alien.
There's been plenty of talk of aliens watching us from afar, potentially visiting us from time to time, or worse, taking over Earth. Now it seems the whole frenzy over the Pentagon report came and went rather quickly, with the media taking a little breather from their COVID talks to focus on what could potentially be foreign adversaries spying, or even better, aliens. To no surprise, the world ate up the alien talk, and then it kind of fizzled out. So naturally, the media went back to what they know people will pay attention to. But not me. In fact, I'm over here thinking that they may be responsible for creating the very planet we call home. Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we are asking, what if aliens created the Earth? The possibilities with this one truly are endless, so let's just pick a place to start and get right into it. And make sure you don't forget to smash that like button, or else the aliens won't let you phone home. What if aliens created the Earth? Well, I guess nothing about our day-to-day really would be that different if they did or if they didn't. I mean, regardless of that fact, we're all sitting here doing the same things we would be doing, right? I'm not even sure if that would give you more or less reasons for an existential crisis, but I'm just saying, if that's the truth, then that's the truth. Let's talk about how this could be a possibility though. I mean, where did life come from? Throughout our galaxy we found a lot of the elements needed to sustain life, so why haven't we found anywhere else where life does exist, even in the smallest, most primitive way? We know that we evolved from the early stages of life, but how did they begin to exist in the first place? Perhaps when the Earth was initially created, some kind of primitive life form came off from an already existing life form and ended up on our wonderful planet, and well, the rest is history. I mean, let's just talk about our moon. Where did it come from? No one really knows because we weren't around to witness it, but two of the main theories is that Earth and another Mars-sized planet once collided and then the debris from that became the moon. One of the other main theories is that an early proto-Earth and another planet called Theia smashed into each other and almost completely amalgamated into one, but the debris from this collision created our moon. So basically, the theory behind the moon is that there was some sort of big planet collision and the moon is the leftovers of that. So I'm here asking, what if the other planet involved in this collision was either sent by some sort of advanced civilization to send life to Earth to see what would happen, or what if this other planet was the planet that contained the alien life? The universe is 14 billion years old, which means that there has been more than enough time for there to have been previous alien life that may or may not exist anymore. Or maybe aliens created us and Earth like they're playing some sort of Sims game. Maybe they created us as entertainment for themselves. Maybe we're some sort of experiment. Like I said before, the possibilities really are endless. If the aliens created Earth, there are some things that would surprisingly make a little more sense. I mean, it would answer why we haven't found them yet. It would also give us answers to many of the UFOs we've seen over the years. It would give us an answer as to how we haven't all basically just been wiped out yet. I mean, what if the aliens sent a primitive life form here and then dinosaurs formed and they thought to themselves, nope, not interesting enough, and then sent an asteroid just to spice things up a bit? I mean, not having an Earth-shattering asteroid hit Earth for 66 million years might just be a coincidence, but today we're asking the question, what if it's not? It would make sense why there have seemingly been UFO sightings since ancient times as well. Maybe the aliens were a little less careful long ago, but as we advanced, they got sneakier. Maybe as we get further out into space, they have to be more careful with what they're doing and how they're watching us. Answering these questions, however, or rather going through the multitude of questions that arise from our one main question, brings me to another. If the aliens created Earth, and subsequently us, why did they leave, or why have they not made any official contact? Maybe that is because it's all about entertainment for them, or maybe it's because they're just standing back to see what happens, or maybe they're waiting for us to reach a certain point before they'd feel comfortable coming down to hang out with us, or maybe they're scared of what they've created. We can all say individually what we would do if we saw an alien come down to Earth, but we don't have one universal consensus. Like, I personally feel like I would be nice because I'd want to know more, but I'm sure someone down the street from me would think that we should start an all-out alien-human war. It absolutely makes sense that they would be biding their time and being cautious if they're somewhere out there watching over us like the coolest babysitter we've ever had. I feel like a lot of this video so far has just been a stream of consciousness rant, so let's really break it down a bit before we all head out of here. Let's talk about some really likely possibilities. Perhaps we need to change our view of what we think aliens are. The word aliens usually first makes me personally think of an advanced civilization not too different from ours. This isn't a wrong thought process considering we don't know what's out there, but maybe this thought is clouding our ability to see the truth. What if alien life is the smallest, most primitive organism? Maybe not as exciting as a sci-fi movie, but currently this is the strongest possibility for alien life that exists beyond our planet based on what we currently know. That's not to say that an advanced civilization beyond ours is impossible, and I don't think anyone should think it is, but that's just based on our current knowledge and exploration. So maybe at one point there was this primitive organism kind of alien life floating around in space. It found Earth and realized it could survive and reproduce here, and maybe that really is just how life began here on Earth. Or maybe those primitive forms of life were on some sort of meteor that smashed into Earth however many billion years ago. All I'm saying is that there's a multitude of of theories and beliefs out there. Some are seemingly more likely than others. But if someone thinks that there's alien life living inside the core of our Earth, who am I to tell them that they're wrong? I've never been to the core of the Earth. Have you? Questions like these remind us all that sometimes we need to ask questions that seem unlikely to look outside of the box. If we just shut out these questions immediately, how are we expecting to get anywhere? There's a saying that there's no planet B, but that really is just for us humans. It is very possible and almost the most likely that we are just one small link in the giant cosmic chain of life. With anything in science, until we have the evidence, we simply can't just rule it out. Keep asking yourselves big questions, and maybe one day we'll get the answers. The search for alien life has become a huge topic both within and outside of the scientific community, with us making steps every single day to either prove or potentially disprove their existence. While we haven't found concrete evidence yet, we have found a ton of things that provide us promising looks into the potential existence of even the most primitive signs of alien life. These pieces of evidence have pushed us outside of the box of what we once thought alien life could look like, and has expanded our horizons more than what was once thought possible. For today's LBQ video, I have gathered 10 of the strongest signs we currently have, so buckle up while we head to space and talk about the top 10 things that prove aliens exist. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the mysterious beam. Pretty recently, scientists explained that they captured a mysterious beam of energy that was coming from the star that is the closest known star to the Sun, Proxima Centauri. This star is small and low mass and is located around 4.2 million light years away from us. The thing about this star is that it has one rocky exoplanet that is 17% larger than Earth in its habitable zone, which would make liquid water a possibility on the planet. This planet's habitability has been disputed throughout the years, but this signal could be a sign that it may be even more habitable than any of us know. Scientists explained that the signal shifted while it was being observed, which mimicked the shift caused by the movement of a planet. They're taking extra precautions to figure out what exactly caused this shift in case it was a sort of mundane source. It will of course take some time to figure out, but it's all very exciting. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Venus cloud. Last year, in September of 2020, astrobiologists everywhere were excited and skeptical of some new potential evidence that had been found in the upper clouds of Venus. The new findings were pointing to the potential presence of phosphine in these clouds. Phosphine is a rare and usually poisonous gas that on Earth is basically always met with the presence of living organisms. Venus hasn't really been the top of the list of choices for finding potential life due to its surface temperature and pressure and the sulfuric acid clouds, but this evidence could prove to say something otherwise. It is one of those findings that really forces us outside of the box on what we have previously thought alien life could look like. 2 separate telescopes were able to pick up the signatures of phosphine in a cloud that had a similar temperature and pressure to Earth. While this isn't concrete evidence of space bugs, it will at least be a reminder that we should be continuing to look for life even in the most unlikely places. And hey, maybe it is space bugs. In our number 8 spot today, we have Europa. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge to it, and in 2001, NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes might be responsible for this red color. The surface of this moon is mostly ice, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a bizarre way. This means that something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make the data make sense. There are some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions and that also have that red and brown color, which could potentially be responsible for the color on this moon. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they are located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they are flash frozen in place. In our number 7 spot today, we have Titan. Many space agencies have turned their main focus on the search for extraterrestrial life, from advanced intelligent life forms to more primitive and smaller life forms, and that starts with the smallest organisms and microbes. To help with this study and process, NASA is preparing a $4.25 billion mission to Europa, which is the Jupiter moon that we just talked about, since scientists believe it holds that strong potential for alien microbes under its icy surface. This study is aiming to be launched in 2024, which is quickly approaching, but there is another mission also in the works that is focusing on another moon moon that we haven't yet spoken about, and that is the moon of Saturn called Titan. In 2027, they're aiming to launch the $1 billion Dragonfly mission to this moon in order to analyze the lakes of liquid methane that exist on Titan. A planetary scientist at Johns Hopkins University who studies alien atmospheres named Sarah Horst has said that they believe Titan has all the ingredients necessary for life, so it certainly is a promising mission. We may have to wait until 2027, but who knows? Maybe we'll find signs even before then with all of the upcoming missions and technological advancements. In our number 6 spot today we have light shifts. In the later half of 2015, a Penn State astronomer named Jason Wright explained that there were pretty erratic and spontaneous shifts in the light that was coming from a newly discovered star. This star sits about 1,280 light years away from us on Earth, and these shifts were very similar to as if something was passing in front of our view of the star briefly before passing through. Scientists weren't able to connect this to any exoplanets or anything like that, which we could understand, and this is what led Jason to quite an interesting theory. He stated that it is possible that the shifts are caused by massive objects passing in front of the star in like a kind of orbit, like an array of massive satellites or a similar kind of structure, like the type of thing that would be produced by an intelligent and civilized life form. Again, like many things, it's just a theory, but a very compelling one at that. In our number 5 spot today we have the USS Princeton UFO. This UFO sighting comes from 2004. On November 14th of that year, the USS Princeton noticed an unknown aircraft of some sort that was about 100 miles off of the coast of San Diego. For 2 weeks prior to this, the crew had been tracking a strange flying object that would start out at around 80,000 feet before extremely quickly dropping to hover right above the Pacific Ocean. Black Aces Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate of Strike Fighter Squadron 41 went over in 2 fighter jets in order to kind of scope out the situation, and when they arrived they saw what at first appeared to be churning water while there was an oval shape just below the surface. After this, a white oval shaped object appeared above the water, but it had no markings on it. Like no windows, nothing that would indicate an engine, no wings, and the infrared monitors on the jets didn't pick up any sort of exhaust. The commander and lieutenant commander tried to intercept this strange aircraft, but it very quickly flew away and reappeared on the monitor 60 miles away. Like, when I say quickly, I mean it was moving at 3 times the speed of sound and over twice the speed of fighter jets. So faster than any kind of technology we currently have. We still don't know exactly what this was, but I'm sure a lot of us are probably thinking the same thing. In our number 4 spot today we have methane on Mars. As we all know, we are constantly looking at Mars and searching for not only the potential for a new planet for us to live on, but also potential signs of alien life that may already exist there, or perhaps evidence of a past alien existence. In 2004, we might have found some evidence that would suggest this is a strong possibility, and that is the discovery of methane gas in the atmosphere of Mars. In that year, 3 separate groups all independently reported the finding of methane gas, and considering almost all of the methane in Earth's atmosphere is produced by bacteria and other life, this was extremely promising for scientists. There are other possibilities for the methane, such as the thawing of frozen underground deposits, or it could be generated by volcanism, but whatever the cause, it would have to be recent, since it would either be destroyed quickly on Mars or it will escape into the rest of space. To potentially strengthen this point, in 2005 scientists also announced that they may have found evidence of formaldehyde, which was produced by the oxidation of methane. If this is true, that will only strengthen the case for the potential microbes to be found on the planet. The good news is that while all of these potential signs came from almost 20 years ago, and there wasn't the technology to prove any of these claims, we now have the technology actually on the planet digging in the soil, and we are much closer to getting real answers about what is going on Mars than we ever have been before. In our number 3 spot today we have Oumuamua. Okay, so this is one piece of evidence that actually has scientists fighting over what is going on with it. A few years ago, scientists all agreed that we had found an object that was flying through our solar system, and they called it Oumuamua, and it was widely agreed that it was an interstellar comet that had swung out from around another star. But upon closer examination, they realized that something was propelling it and causing it to accelerate, and this is when the debate started, because they just don't really know why. Avi Loeb, who's a Harvard University astrophysicist, proposed the idea that rather than a comet, this could be an alien probe that is being pushed by a light sail, which is a very wide but extremely thin piece of material that accelerates by being pushed by solar radiation. Other scientists didn't agree with this and instead said that it's possible that hydrogen ice could have melted off of the object in a way that would mimic a rocket engine or something of that nature, but in August of last year, Avi wrote in a study that hydrogen ice is too easily heated and it would have melted off long before it reached our solar system. I guess we just have to wait it out while the scientists debate and gather more evidence to really know what's going on behind this one. In our number 2 spot today, we have radio signals. Throughout the years of space exploration, we have received a ton of signals that we just can't quite explain, so I want to talk about 2 of the main ones today. The earliest one came in 1977 when a radio telescope at The Ohio State University picked up a pulse of radiation that was very unusual because of the fact that it was in a band of radio frequencies that are internationally banned on Earth. The signal lasted for 37 seconds and it has been commonly referred to as the WOW signal because of the fact that the astronomers observing it were so shocked at the time that they wrote WOW on the printout from the telescope. The nearest star in the direction it was coming from is 220 million light years away, so it must have either come from a huge astronomical event or intelligent alien life with a very powerful transmitter who are trying to contact us. The second unexplained signal came in 2003 when astronomers were using a massive telescope to re-examine 200 areas of space where they had once detected unexplained radio signals. During this, they found that all of the previously detected signals had disappeared, except for one. This one signal not only didn't disappear, but it only got stronger. The signal is coming from between the constellations of Pisces and Aries, and the curious thing about this location is that it resides in a place where there are no known obvious planets or stars. There are scientists who believe that this is the frequency alien life would be most likely to use if they were trying to contact us. So while there are other possibilities of what these signals are or where they are coming from, it is quite an interesting piece of information and something that definitely deserves more looking into. In our number 1 spot today, we have astronaut sightings. We can sit here all day on Earth and talk about the potential for alien life, but who would know more than the people who have actually been to space, which are of course astronauts. Definitely on the list of coolest and scariest jobs in the entire world, there haven't been a ton of people who have had the unbelievable privilege of experiencing space firsthand, but there are even less of them who have claimed to see something that could potentially be proof of alien existence. People who have claimed these sorts of things include Edgar Mitchell, Catherine Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary. The very interesting part about many of these claims is that they also include some sort of government cover-up as well with their claims. There was also Buzz Aldrin who spoke out about his Apollo 11 experience, and he detailed the crew seeing something flying alongside them, and at first they believed it was the final stage of a detached rocket, but then Mission Control confirmed that it was actually 6,000 miles away from them, leaving them with no answers on what the flying object could actually be. I can't imagine going to space at all, let alone encountering a UFO flying right beside you. Also, I can't believe I hadn't heard of that story before, because to me, that sounds like full-blown alien contact. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. Let me know down below in the comments if any of these signs convinced you that aliens are out there, that they do exist, or let me know if you still don't. Aliens have been a hot topic of conversation for a long time, but with an increase of people believing in their existence, the desire to search for life beyond ours continues to grow. From some of the early stages of our search for alien life, to some ancient evidence that might prove their existence, to a recent sighting of an unidentified aerial phenomenon. Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we are looking at part 2 of the top 10 things that prove aliens exist. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have habitable planets. Let's start off today's video by talking about habitable planets. It is of course possible that there is life out there that could survive on planets that we would not be able to live on because we don't know what kinds of conditions could be conducive to alien life, but we can start out by searching for planets that have conditions similar to our wonderful Earth, because that is, after all, what we currently know best, and it is conditions we know can host life. So that's what scientists did. Not that long ago it was believed that Earth was a bit of an anomaly in terms of its seemingly perfect conditions, but with more and more research and technological advancements, we know that that is far from the truth. A habitable planet has to meet requirements, like being in what is called the Goldilocks zone, which means it's not too close or too far from a star like we are with the sun. It needs to be warm enough that water isn't just ice, but cold enough that life can exist without being burnt up. You know, just the very general basics for life as we know it. Well, what we once thought was an anomaly is unbelievably common. We now know that around 1 in every 5 or 6 planets would be considered habitable and could potentially be hosting life as we know it. Considering it is thought that there is an exoplanet for every star in our galaxy, the number of habitable planets is huge. This doesn't mean these are the only options for planets that could be hosting life either. So with this knowledge, it is easy to draw the conclusion that life beyond ours is an extreme possibility, and maybe we just haven't had enough time to find it yet. In our number 9 spot today, we have They May Already Be Here. We have to throw in a point for the conspiracy theorists out there, so this one is for you guys. This is just the theory that maybe we can't find aliens because they're already walking among us. I can't quite explain the logistics of this one because I'm neither an alien nor have I had some alien dressed in human clothing reveal themselves to me, but I can't speak for everyone, and there really are people who believe that this could be a possibility. I know a lot of us would be quite frightened of aliens if we did find concrete proof of their existence, which is a totally fair response, and it might be likely that they're also afraid of us as well. And if they are more intelligent than us and were able to find us first, they might just be testing out the waters to see what humans really think of them before letting us in on their secrets or whatever cool things they know that we don't. So if you meet a stranger who starts asking you a bunch of questions about aliens, maybe think twice next time. In our number 8 spot today, we have ancient sightings. With the amount of technology right at our fingertips in the world of Photoshop and deepfakes and people who are just trying to get their 5 minutes of fame, it's hard to tell what is real and what is fake anymore, and it's easy to write off what someone claims they experienced. But what about in the times before all of that existed? I'm talking about the ancient times when flying objects didn't exist here on Earth yet and no one was trying to get followers on their Instagram page. Throughout our history, there have been many claims of alien sightings or encounters, but some of these claims come from ancient paintings and writings. I mean, let's take the 15th century painting The Madonna with Saint Giovannino as an example. The painting depicts the Virgin Mary, but in the background it also has some sort of hovering disc-like object that looks suspiciously like a UFO. This is just one example of these ancient sightings, but there appears to be otherworldly beings in things like cave paintings and Sanskrit scrolls, and some people even swear it is written in the book of Ezekiel. So of course, I realize this isn't concrete proof of the existence of aliens, but it definitely is compelling evidence. It either shows we've been visited by aliens before, or that humans have always had a knack for making things up. In our number 7 spot today, we have the geoglyphs. A lot of us have seen or at least heard of the geoglyphs at some point or another, but if you haven't, they are massive drawings carved into the earth and rock, and they appear all over the world in every culture, with the most famous example being that of the Nazca lines in Peru. Using that example, many people believe they may have been a sign of alien life due to the sheer size and variety of them, or perhaps the works of old men which can be found in Jordan. These have been described as stone-built structures that are far more numerous than the Nazca lines, far more extensive in the area they cover, and far older. This is all just to say that many of these works are so clear and precise and large that it leaves people wondering how this could have even been possible without some sort of bird's eye view. We get to enjoy them because we have the technology to see them from high enough above now, but when they were first created, there wasn't the technology yet, so why and how could they have been created? I'm just gonna say it. Aliens. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an extremely mysterious discovery that has stumped researchers ever since it was found. This artifact was found 150 feet below the surface of the Aegean Sea in a shipwreck and is the oldest kind of computer ever recorded, as it was dated back to the 7th century BCE. The author David Childress likened the finding to it if they had found a jet plane in King Tut's tomb. That's how bizarre this discovery really was. Due to the complexity and oddity of the finding, alien enthusiasts have believed for quite some time that it may have been technology that was passed down from some sort of superior being, so aliens. When the artifact was recreated in order to learn about the mysteries it holds, the mechanism was able to calculate the position and running time of each planet. How would they have been able to create this without the use of sophisticated astronomical tools? I'm not saying this is concrete proof of alien, but this, coupled with the ancient sightings we already talked about, there has definitely got to be something else at play here. In our number 5 spot today, we have the fact that they might have died off. This one is a bit disappointing, to be honest, but it's basically just a theory that it's probably pretty likely that there were aliens at some point, but since the universe is so old, they might have already died out. All lives and cultures rise and fall, and researchers put together a model last year that would give more insight into the likelihood of this theory. They took things into account, like sun-like stars that are not too close or too far from planets that are similar to Earth, as well as how frequently there are deadly radiation blasting supernovas, which of course could prove to be a huge problem for life forms, as well as the time that it takes for intelligent life to evolve, provided all of the conditions are right. And once the evolution has taken place, how long it would take for a tool-bearing form of life to then destroy itself. That's a lot of factors to consider, and through all of this, it was found that the highest likelihood of life before ours in the Milky Way emerged around 5.5 billion years ago, which would place that before our planet was even formed. This of course would have provided plenty of time for all of the events I just mentioned to have occurred. I do hope that this one isn't true though, because I hope that there are aliens out there. In our number 4 spot today, we have this bacterial experiment. We started off today's list by talking about how we started our alien search by looking at planets that exist under similar conditions to ours. And while this is a really good place to start, this kind of inside the box thinking might not really get us anywhere when it comes to the search for alien life, because we don't know what kind of conditions are going to be suitable for them. On Earth, most living creatures require oxygen to live, but the problem with that is that most planets have far more hydrogen and helium than oxygen. Last year, scientists decided to take 2 different bacteria. One was E. coli, which can be found in the guts of humans, and the other was ordinary yeast, which is used in things like bread and beer. With these 2 bacteria, they tried to see if they could live in different environments. When placed within flasks that contained either pure hydrogen or pure helium, they still managed to grow, just at a slower pace. This evidence goes to show that there might be living organisms that we haven't found yet, because we are just looking in the wrong places. In our number 3 spot today, we have this radiation-proof bacteria. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. In 2002, Russian astrobiologists hypothesized that a bacteria here on Earth may have actually evolved on Mars. Deinonychus radiodurans is the most tough bacteria on Earth. It can withstand even the most extreme conditions such as cold, dehydration, vacuum, and acid, but the craziest part is that it's virtually radiation proof. These little microbes can withstand several thousand times the amount of radiation a human can withstand, as well as more radiation than any other bacteria on Earth. You could even find this bacteria on the inside of a nuclear reactor. Scientists did an experiment to see how quickly this bacteria could build up a stronger radiation resistance by zapping the bacteria with enough radiation to kill 99.9% of it, and then leaving the remaining 0.01% to repopulate before zapping it again and repeating the process. It was concluded that it would have taken E. coli thousands and thousands of rounds to build up the same resistance that this hardy bacteria did in only 44 rounds. With this experiment, and based on the dose of radiation they gave each bacteria, it would take millions and millions of years to get even close to the amount of radiation they gave the bacteria in one cycle. Since Earth just doesn't carry that amount of radiation, it has led some scientists to speculate that since Mars is virtually unprotected and receives extremely high amounts of radiation, these bacteria may have evolved on Mars and gained their resistance in just a few 100,000 years, and then they may have been flung off of Mars by an asteroid and then brought to Earth on meteorites. It certainly is just a hypothesis at this point, but really, how else can we explain this random superpowered bacteria that is unlike any else on our Earth? I know these bacteria aren't the signs of alien life we were expecting and hoping for, but any alien life is exciting no matter how small. In our number 2 spot today, we have fossilized microbes. This is a piece of evidence that came from 1996 and is said to have come all the way from Mars as well. 25 years ago, scientists said that they had potentially found what appeared to be fossilized microbes in a lump of Martian rock. This rock was hypothesized to have come off of Mars after some sort of collision that the planet had, and then just casually floated around in space for some 15 million years before it ended up in Antarctica in 1984. You know, just the kind of things that happen in space. Once the rock was found and analyzed, it was found that it contained organic molecules and small specks of mineralized magnetite, which can sometimes be found in the bacteria on Earth. Once viewed with an electron microscope, there were signs of bacteria found. Of course, with anything like this, there will always be skeptics, and some have claimed that the magnetite wasn't that similar to those found in bacteria, and some claim that the signs of nanobacteria were just grown in a lab. I'm not a scientist, nor have I seen this Mars rock, so I obviously can't say who is telling the truth here, but what I can say is that neither the people who believe this rock came from Mars, or those who claim it's fake can prove their point without any kind of doubt, so I'll just let you draw your own conclusions on this one. In our number 1 spot today, we have the 2021 UFO. To end off our list today, we have a trusty old UFO sighting that came from earlier this year. On February 21st, a blogger was using a radio scanner to try and pick up the feed from an aircraft when he received much more than ever expected. He intercepted the transmission of the wrong aircraft, but at the right time. As an American Airlines flight was headed from Cincinnati to Phoenix around 1:19 p.m., the pilot came on the radio to ask the question, "Do you have any targets up here? We just had something go right over top of us." After this, he followed up with, "I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing, moving really fast right over top of us." Not only were the FAA air traffic controllers not able to see any object in the area on their radar scope, but they still have been unable to identify exactly what it could have been. This does happen more often than any of us really know, and it is possible that the object could have been part of some covert military or Navy operation, but it certainly raises some alarm bells that it was unable to be tracked in any sort of capacity. I wonder if this is one of those stories that will remain a mystery, or if one day we'll get some sort of answers as to what exactly happened here. With exciting NASA missions coming up quickly, such as the Artemis mission or the James Webb Telescope launch, it only makes sense that we continue to discuss all things space, and of course, more on the aliens. From a mass UFO sighting, to some things found in the soil on Mars, to an entire other solar system beyond ours, and even more. On today's Life's Biggest Questions video, we are going to be diving into part 3 of the top 10 things that prove aliens exist. Starting off at our number 10 spot, we have Dr. Brian O'Leary. Dr. Brian O'Leary is a former NASA astronaut and was also a physics professor at Princeton. While it totally makes sense that we can't just take one thing that one person says as the truth, it certainly is interesting that someone with his qualifications and expertise would say something that truthfully has been quite polarizing. He explained that there is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been monitoring us for a very long time, and that their appearance is bizarre from any type of traditional, materialistic Western point of view, and that these visitors use the technologies of consciousness, they use droids, they use co-rotating magnetic disks for their propulsion systems, which seems to be a common denominator of the UFO phenomenon. I don't have this evidence that he's speaking of, nor do I know how these claims could be substantiated, but it is definitely something to consider, regardless of what your current personal beliefs are. This is one that might just be nonsense that was spewed in order to keep people talking, but it is entirely possible that this is the real truth, but most of us have just been conditioned to be too skeptical to believe it. In our number 9 spot today, we have the NASA Viking experiment. This is one of the more debated ones on today's list, but that doesn't mean it isn't evidence. In 1976, NASA's Viking landers tested the soil on Mars and found some chemicals that could be attributed to signs of life. The soil was mixed with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients and then tested for the production of radioactive methane gas. The test ended up receiving a positive result, which could indicate that something in the soil is metabolizing the nutrients to produce the gas. Despite further efforts, there still hasn't been any life found, but one of the scientists who worked on this original project, and others as well, stand by what they found and argued that the technology at the time wasn't advanced enough to find the key evidence of life. Hopefully with the new Perseverance rover that landed recently, we'll be able to find all of the signs that we have been looking for. In our number 8 spot today, we have black holes. When we think of black holes, we usually think of how absolutely terrifying they are, but that may be changing. There has actually been the discovery of a planet that is floating around a black hole. The forces around the hole are also providing heat for the planet as well, but there is one catch, and that is the fact that the planet needs to orbit at the speed of light. This would mean that a second on that planet would be hours on ours, which is kind of difficult to comprehend. The planet would have to be in what is called the Goldilocks zone, because if it's too far from the black hole, it'll be too cold and there won't be any liquid water, but if it's too close, it will of course be sucked into the black hole by gravitational forces. We of course would never know if life exists on this planet because we are far too afraid to go and check it out, which is of course super reasonable. But what if this is the planet that we have been searching for this whole time? While it seemingly isn't the most likely thing, we are also talking about interdimensional travel, so there really are stranger things. In our number 7 spot today we have FBI documents. In a video that was released by the hacktivist group Anonymous a few years ago, they discussed some sort of FBI documents that are apparently declassified and just sitting on the website waiting for anyone to come across. These documents apparently suggested that we have not only been visited by aliens, but also by beings from other dimensions. This document was sent in 1947, and while it didn't originate from within the FBI, it was sent in by a university department head, and it was treated with the utmost importance by the FBI. The document goes on to say that the aliens that have visited aren't from a planet as we think of it, but rather some sort of etheric planet that interpenetrates our own, but we aren't able to perceive it. They're able to consciously make their decision to enter our plane, and in the same respect, exit whenever they want. The document says the visits are all peaceful and they are for the purpose of scoping out our planet, as they might also want to call it home one day. This certainly is one of those things that you have to draw your own conclusions from, and while it's very good to remain skeptical, it's also imperative that we keep our minds open, because who are we to say for sure? In our number 6 spot today we have Frederick Valentich. Frederick was an Australian pilot who disappeared under some unbelievably suspicious circumstances on a training flight on October 21st, 1978. During the flight, he radioed the Melbourne Air Traffic Control to let them know that he was being accompanied by an aircraft that was about 1,000 feet above him, and at that same time his engine had begun to run roughly. Air Traffic Control responded to him by explaining that there was no known air traffic at that level, and Frederick explained that he could see a large unknown aircraft with 4 bright landing lights. He explained the aircraft approached him from the east, and at first he thought it was another pilot playing around with him, which, for the record, during a flight seems like a terrible time to play a prank on someone. He then went on to explain that the mysterious aircraft was orbiting him and had a green light on it. When Air Traffic Control tried to get further details and asked what kind of aircraft it was, Frederick responded by saying, "It's not an aircraft." After this, his radio transmission was interrupted by a metallic scraping sound, and this is when all contact was lost. Sea and air search began, but to no avail. There have been speculations that don't involve alien abductions, such as a staged disappearance, the possibility of Frederick getting confused and flying upside down, and potentially even him taking his own life, but all of these theories have been debunked in some sort of way, and neither the aircraft or Frederick himself have ever been found. The reason why alien abduction has been the main theory in this case is due to the fact of the many reported UFO sightings on the same night in the same region as his disappearance. It of course leaves us with more questions than answers, but it's all very interesting and very mysterious. In our number 5 spot today we have the Stephenville UFO. In January of 2008, in the small town of Stephenville, Texas, a bunch of residents all saw something in the sky that they couldn't believe. In the beginning there appeared to be white lights in the sky that were first in a single arc, but then they quickly moved to form 2 parallel lines. It was estimated that the lights were spanning about a mile long and half a mile wide. But the craziest part is that it was flying at 3,000 miles per hour, which is similar to the speed of a fighter jet, but there was no sound reported at all. The government chalked this sighting up to the US Air Force flight operation, but many of the residents who saw this event on that day were absolutely not convinced, and truly some felt like they were lied to. Some even explained that what they saw was too technologically advanced for human civilization. I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you believe this story from the government, or if you trust the instincts of the people in Stephenville who saw the incident that day. In In our number 4 spot today we have TRAPPIST-1. TRAPPIST-1 is a star that sits around 40 light years away from us, and it was an important space discovery that first came in 1999. Since 1999, however, the excitement surrounding it has only grown. In 2016, scientists realized that the star had 3 planets orbiting around it, but in 2017, that number grew as it was discovered that it actually had 7 planets orbiting it, making it a solar system not unlike our own. From there, scientists have been able to learn more about it, making it the most well-known solar system apart from the one we live in. While there are a few planets too close and a few planets too far from the star to be in the habitable zone, there are 3 in a place where liquid water just might be a possibility. Scientists know that the star is somewhere from 5.4 to 9.8 billion years old, which could make it twice the age of our very own sun and solar system, which formed around 4.5 billion years ago. While there is still far more research that needs to be done on the solar system, it most definitely is very interesting. If life was able to be formed here, and there is a similar solar system there, what would make life not be able to form there? Or perhaps it already did once and died off. Truly, the possibilities are endless with this one. In our number 4 spot today we have the Roswell incident. This whole rigmarole started in 1947 when some sort of crash took place near a ranch in Roswell, New Mexico. Shortly after this, the Roswell Army Airfield released a statement saying that they had recovered a flying disc from the ranch, but the Army quickly retracted the statement and said it wasn't that, but instead was a conventional weather balloon. This was a little sketchy, but most people let it slide until the 1970s. What happened in the 70s is that a retired lieutenant colonel began to speak out. In an interview with a UFO researcher, he said that the weather balloon story was a cover-up and that alien remains were actually recovered from the crash site. There were both first and second-hand witnesses who claimed that not only were there at least one, but possibly more alien spacecrafts that had crashed at the scene, but also that extraterrestrial remains were also recovered by the military, who then began to engage in a cover-up. In 1994, the story changed from a weather balloon to a nuclear test surveillance balloon from Project Mogul, and it was stated that the stories of the alien bodies were probably just test dummies that had been dropped from high altitudes. I'm not gonna lie, the whole thing sounds a little sketchy. I obviously wasn't there, so I can't say for certain what happened, but someone is definitely lying about it. What do you guys think? Was it some more or less harmless explanation, or was it really the site of an alien crash? In our number 2 spot today we have Enceladus. Yep, we're here again, still can't say that word. Enceladus used to be thought of as basically just an icy snowball floating around in space, or as a small moon of Saturn with a diameter of 502 kilometers, but as it turns out, this small moon might hold some pretty amazing potential. It was discovered that this moon has hydrothermal processes going on underneath its crust. To us non-scientists, that means next to nothing, but what if I said that that means that it just might have all of the requirements for life? And that it is becoming a greater possibility that we might find microbial life there. Basically, this moon has an icy shell for a surface and then a rocky interior, but between these 2 layers is an ocean, and this ocean is where scientists think life is most likely to be. This discovery came almost accidentally when the Cassini orbiter arrived to Saturn in 2005 and found water plumes shooting out of the cracks in the surface, which made scientists realize that it just may be geologically active. Through more research and by flying the orbiter through the water, by the time 2015 rolled around, scientists knew that it was holding all of the keys to life. While this little moon was never the original focus of research, it quickly took over with its incredibly exciting potential. There are not only plans from NASA to have more missions to this moon to see what's going on, but there are also other privately funded missions that are currently in the works. Who would have thought that a tiny moon might be where the alien life is hiding? In our number 1 spot today we have radio signals. Basically, we're getting radio signals from somewhere, but we just aren't quite sure what exactly is going on there. It started in 2007 when we began getting what are called fast radio bursts, and they are a totally mysterious phenomena to scientists. These bursts are only a few milliseconds long, but they emit more energy than the sun does in 24 hours, which is just a statement that my brain struggles to comprehend. All of this is already super cool and interesting, but here's an even crazier thing about them. The main thing we know about these bursts is that they are coming from outside of the Milky Way. They're coming from outside of our own galaxy. Space is the coolest thing. This obviously has led a lot of experts to believe that it could be coming from an advanced civilization that is quite far away, and they may be trying to contact us, but we just don't have the technology to interpret the signals. Maybe one day scientists will figure out a way to accept whatever message it is they are trying to send, or maybe one day we'll get a visit from them and they'll all be mad at us for not answering their messages. I don't know. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye!